Hey guys, it's Lindsay. Welcome back to my channel, and I am well overdue for a pregnancy update, so that is what we are going to be doing today. I did my gestational diabetes video about a month ago, and then I think it was just about a month before that I last did my last actual update. So like I said, I'm well overdue for an update, but today is Sunday, March 26, 2017, and I am currently 33 weeks and 1 day pregnant. So I'm going to start out with a little story time. Now this happened, I believe I was 30 weeks and 6 days. Yeah, so it was the day before I turned 31 weeks. We had been at Target. We had been kind of just meandering around Target for probably a little over an hour. We were doing some grocery shopping and just kind of looking around the whole store. So I had been walking quite a bit that day. But then on the way home, my husband was driving. I had two really big contractions pretty close together, and they were painful contractions. They weren't just the Braxton Hicks pressure kind. I could tell that they were different. Even though by that point my Braxton Hicks contractions had gotten much stronger, I could still tell that these ones were different. So I said, okay, as soon as I get home, I'm just gonna go straight upstairs, lie down, and see what's going on. And my contractions didn't stop, they continued, and I had been monitoring them. I have a little app that keeps track of them. And they were going on for over an hour, about 7 minutes apart, I think, and they were lasting right about a minute. So after about an hour, my husband was like, you need to call the doctor. You need to tell her what's going on. I was like, no, it's fine. It's really not that big of a deal. I'm gonna feel so silly calling because I know what's gonna happen. She's gonna send me to labor and delivery. We'll be there for an hour. They'll say, you're all set to go, no big deal. Why did you even come in? And then we'll be on our merry way. But at the same time, I know how my body reacted to labor the first time around. I was 5 centimeters dilated and I had absolutely no idea when it was time to give birth to my son. So I was like, okay, because of that, maybe I should call, just because who really knows what's going on with my body. So of course she sends us to the labor and delivery department. So we get there and I immediately get put into a triage room, and I think one of the very first things that they end up doing to me is checking me for dilation. And surprise, surprise, I mean, really, this was probably one of the biggest surprises of my life. I was 4 centimeters dilated, which just completely caught me off guard. I thought maybe 1, 2 centimeters, but 4 centimeters dilated, I believe, is considered active labor. Like if you were 38 weeks and you went in the hospital and you're 4 centimeters dilated, they're gonna keep you at that point. So I kind of freaked out a little bit, not gonna lie. So then of course they gave me all sorts of different, or they like swabbed a whole bunch of different things down there. I don't know, it was very uncomfortable. But they were just trying to get some tests ran on me, and then they ended up giving me a steroid shot for her lungs, because if I was in labor at that point, they wanted to make sure that if she were to be born, that she would have the best chance of breathing on her own, which is what the steroids kind of do. So anyways, I'm just gonna try and make like a long story short. I was not actually in labor, though I mean, I guess I kind of was. Who knows? I mean, I don't even know. But they checked me a couple hours later. They decided to keep me because I was so far along. I mean, 4 centimeters in the grand scheme of things isn't that bad or isn't that big, but because I was only 31 or 31 weeks, they decided to keep me overnight and keep monitoring me just to make sure that I was really not dilating, because when we first got there, we obviously didn't know. But a couple hours later, they checked me for dilation again, and I had not changed, which was a good sign. That's what we wanted to see. So then they just kind of continued to monitor me overnight, and then by the next morning they checked me for a third time, and again I had not changed in dilation. So I think really by the second time they checked me, after a couple hours of just hanging out right about 4 centimeters, we were pretty confident that I really was not in labor. I guess people can just start to dilate early. I think that's really kind of just what happened to me. But I ended up staying in the hospital for exactly 24 hours just on the monitors, just to make sure that no funny business was really going on and that the contractions weren't going to start up again. But by the time I was released, they were really confident that nothing was going to happen, at least within the immediate future. And that was 2 weeks ago now, and I'm still pregnant. So it was an interesting experience, and it was scary, when I first got there, when I first heard that I was 4 centimeters dilated, but it quickly became just a pretty routine hospital stay just to check on the baby and everything. Of course, I really am glad that I ended up calling and going in so I know what's going on with my body. I was told since the beginning of my pregnancy this time around that this labor is going to go fast, because it went went relatively fast with my son, and the second time around, you know, you're gonna go even faster. So to know that I'm already almost halfway dilated, it really kind of scares me to know that when I actually do go into labor, I gotta be fast and I gotta get to the hospital as soon as I can to make sure that I get the epidural that I want. And then, oh, I also found out they swabbed me for GBS, I think is what it's called. And this time I'm GBS positive, which, I mean, it's not that big of a deal in like the grand scheme of things, but I will have to be on antibiotics while I'm in labor. I was not positive with Harry, so I didn't have to worry about that. And from what I've understood, you're supposed to be ideally on the antibiotics for at least 2 hours before you give birth, which, you know, again, is just now kind of weighing on my mind and making me evaluate every little thing that's going on. But all right, so that all happened about 2 weeks ago, and since then I have been on moderate bed rest, meaning I can get up and I can move around and stuff, but I'm not supposed to do any strenuous walking or any kind of exercise really, and I'm not supposed to stand for more than 30 minutes at a time. And I've been as good as I can be, you know, with having a 5-year-old around and having to get him to school in the mornings and stuff. But for the most part, I've followed it as best as that I can. Friday though, this just a couple of days ago, I was just so bored at my house, so I was doing the dishes and then I was organizing and cleaning stuff, so I definitely stood a little bit too much that day, but I didn't really have any kind of contractions until last night. All right, so last night we had gone out to dinner, and again, we were on our way home, and I had 2 big contractions like right in a row, and I was like, oh my gosh, no, 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 this is not happening again. And we had just gone out to dinner, you know, I wasn't walking around a store or anything, so I was like, what is going on? So again, I go upstairs and I lay down on my bed and just try to relax and start counting my contractions. And they were definitely not as regular as they were 2 weeks ago, but they were timeable. And I kind of was like, okay, should I call? Should I not call? And I didn't end up calling. And I had been laying down for about 2 hours, and I think the contractions were, I don't know, what were they? Between like 5 and 10 minutes apart. So like I said, they weren't anywhere near as regular as they were the first time around, and they weren't as long either. So I decided not to call, and after a couple hours after we put my son to bed, I decided to go downstairs and just sit on the couch and just kind of, you know, relax for the evening down in my family room. And they kind of stopped, or maybe not completely stopped, but they definitely started spacing out even further, which is good. That's what I wanted them to do. So then, what time was it? Maybe about 12:30, I decided to go back up to bed, and they started again, which was kind of strange. You would think that, you know, you're not, you know, once you start laying down, you're on your left side. That's what they always tell you anyways, is when you do that, the contractions should, unless it's real labor, they should kind of start to decrease, but mine started back up again as soon as I went upstairs. So I started timing my contractions again, and they were quite a bit more regular. And they weren't lasting over a minute. I would say they were anywhere from like 30 to 50 seconds, but they were closer together. They were about 5 minutes apart. I didn't feel like they were quite as strong as they were 2 weeks ago though. So then after about an hour of that, I decided to go back downstairs, and my husband, who's on this weird work schedule right now, was downstairs in the family room watching TV or something. So I go down there, I'm like, you're not gonna like what I have to tell you, but my contractions are pretty darn regular right now. So I just kind of started to walk around the house a little bit, see kind of, you know, when I was moving a little bit, what happened with the contractions. And they really kind of stopped, you guys. It's like so weird. I don't understand what's going on with my body, but apparently my body likes to be moving around, and that's what is slowing the contractions down. So then I sat down for a little bit on the couch, and they really didn't pick up at all. So I was close to calling my doctor when I first initially went downstairs, and I thought that I was going to, but because they really stopped, I decided not to. And I do have an appointment with my doctor tomorrow, so I'm gonna have her check me just to kind of see if maybe what was happening last night did anything down there. I do wanna know. I was already so far dilated anyways, and I know I'm gonna go fast, as I said, so I do wanna know what's going on down there. But hopefully we can make it to at least 34 weeks, which is in, I think 5 days now, 6 days, something like that, so that I can actually deliver at the hospital that I want to deliver at. Back when I was in the hospital, my doctor told me that after 34 weeks, the risk of birth defects and any kind of developmental delays really, really decreases at that point. So we want to make it to 34 weeks. That is the goal. And then she said, as soon as I hit 34 weeks, I don't have to be on bed rest anymore, which I'm also really looking forward to. But I guess, you know, we're just gonna have to play it by ear. We will see what happens. Hopefully I can remain pregnant for the next few days, you know, next 6 days at least. Even going even further than that would of course be ideal, but we'll just have to wait and see. And then of course I'm still dealing with the gestational diabetes stuff. I think I've been dealing with it now for a little over a month, and you guys, it is no joke. I feel for anybody that has to do this on a regular basis, that's been doing this for years, because it is hard. I mean, it is really difficult just to remember what you have to do, when you have to do it, what you can eat, what you can't eat. I mean, all this stuff, it's just, it's kind of just made my brain explode, really, just all the stuff I have to remember. And my numbers were kind of all over the place. The morning is definitely the most difficult time I have. My fasting numbers have been okay for the most part. They need to be under 95. I think today I was 86, which is pretty good. Then my number after breakfast is what really has kind of been screwing me over. So I'm now on a medication. I'm on something called glyburide, I think is what it's called, and I just take that with breakfast. And even with that, I cannot hardly eat any carbs at breakfast. And it's really weird because based on the numbers that I get, it looks like I've been eating carbs. It's still within the okay range, but I have 9 carbs at breakfast, which is almost nothing. I have a little cup of coffee, and it's like a Keurig thing, so it's like a pre-sweetened thing. There's 9 in there, and then I have eggs, and that's it. And my numbers read like I should have probably eaten some fruit or a little piece of bread or something, and I haven't. Does that make sense? I don't even know if that makes sense. But my after breakfast numbers are just always on the slightly high side, especially for how little carbs I'm eating. But I have heard from a lot of people with gestational diabetes that the morning time is definitely the most difficult to control. So, like I said, my numbers are still in the okay zone, so I'm not too worried about it at this point. But yeah, it's just frustrating. I am really looking forward to not having to do this again. Hopefully, after I deliver my placenta, I will go back to normal. Really hoping that that's the case, and it's not like my blood pressure last time where I, continued to have to go onto blood pressure medication for 5 years after I gave birth. Oh man, that would just really suck. But I guess if it happens, it happens. But then as far as my blood pressure goes, my blood pressure has been holding steady, which is good. It's elevated, but it's not crazy elevated. And that is just so funny to me because that is one of the main reasons why I wasn't sure if I wanted to get pregnant again, because of all the blood pressure complications that I had with my first pregnancy. And it's been almost smooth sailing this time around. I mean, I am on the medication, but it's a very low dose. I've been on it since I was 5 weeks pregnant, and it's been keeping me, in the okay range, which is good, but no one's really concerned about it. When I was in the hospital a couple weeks ago, all the readings were within the okay range. So I don't know what to make of my blood pressure. It's just kind of crazy. Then as far as other symptoms that I've had, my back pain is really reaching new levels. I have been seeing a physical therapist, and she's awesome. I think I started seeing her about 25 weeks. And from 25 weeks up until 31 weeks, I was good. I had so many more good days than bad days. She really helped me with my back, gave me some stretches and exercises, and she just gives me a nice massage every week. It was glorious, but the last 2 weeks have been quite difficult. And it's nothing against her. I think she's amazing. I think it's just because the baby's growing and changing positions, and everything's just getting so crowded in there. There's just, it's just what's gonna happen. It's just this horrible back pain. But it was, for the longest time, just kind of isolated onto the left side. And now it's getting over to the right side now. So it's very difficult for me to find something or a comfortable position to sleep in or sit in or stand in. I mean, it's getting really bad, but I'm very thankful that I'm going to physical therapy, because if I wasn't at all, those last 7 or 8 weeks would have been hell. And I think even now it would be so much worse than it is. So I'm very thankful that I've been able to go to that. And then let's see what else. Oh, my hair. I mentioned before that I didn't think my hair was doing anything spectacular, but it has stopped falling out, I've noticed, which is awesome. Of course, it'll all fall out after I give birth, but finally I've noticed that it has not fallen out so much, but my nails just were not growing. So I got fake nails put on because I missed the long nails that I had when I was pregnant with my son. So I just went and I got fake nails put on the other day. I kind of felt guilty about doing it, but I researched the heck out of it to make sure that it looked like it was okay. And every site that I went to said that it was fine to get them done. You just might not like the fumes. But I was like the very first customer of the morning, so there really wasn't too many fumes going on in the salon. And I figured I'll get them done now and then maybe do one other fill before she gets here, so it's not like that big of a deal. But they've just been super fun. I love having fake nails. I've always loved having fake nails or just long nails in general. So I'm so happy that I finally have my long pregnancy nails. And then I mentioned before how I really didn't feel her moving so much. Today I actually have not felt her moving that much, but the rest of this week I felt her a ton. Like she has been moving like crazy, having little dance parties in there. So I was so thankful that I was finally able to feel her moving around like crazy, so I could actually say that, because I would always say like, or because whenever anyone would ask me like, oh, do you feel the baby moving a ton? I'm like, a little bit, but the last week for sure she has been moving like crazy, but today she's been a little bit more quiet. And then just one other thing I wanted to briefly mention is that I did start Biophysical Profiles weekly along with weekly NSTs, and those are all at my MFM doctor, the high risk doctor. And the Biophysical Profile is basically just a quick little ultrasound. It's not a full growth scan. They're just looking for a few specific things. I know they measure the fluid that's in there and the heartbeat. I honestly don't know what all they measure, but my first one was yesterday, and I think I maybe had like a 10-minute ultrasound or something like that. Like I said, it was really quick, and then I had an NST where they just like, you know, put the little band around you and monitor the baby's heart rate, and I had to do that for about 25 minutes because you have to get, I think, accelerations or dips or something. They're looking for some variations, and I think you need to get at least 2 of those within about a half hour or so. So I'm going to be doing those weekly now from now on. I think then that's basically it for this update. I'm just so ready to be done, and I know I shouldn't be. Obviously we want to go as far along in this pregnancy as we can, but with the back pain, the diabetes, all these contractions that I've been having, I'm so ready to be done. I know I've been meaning to do this. I've been meaning to tell my future self, you don't ever want to be pregnant again. Don't ever get baby fever again. You don't want to be pregnant again. I don't like being pregnant. I don't like it. I don't ever want to do this again. Of course, in a couple years, I might be singing a different tune. That's why I'm trying to, you know, give myself a little pep talk in the future. Trust me, you don't want to do this again. It's only going to be even harder if you're even older in the next couple of years. So 2 is good. 2 is good. That's enough. That is enough. That is enough for you. But anyways, I think that is it for this update. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments below. I post my belly pictures over on Instagram every Wednesday. I will have a link listed down below in case you want to go check that out. I would also really love it if you would subscribe to my channel. And then I guess I will just see you guys all in my next video.